Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Granth Bhagavad Gita ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person, text number 16. Dvāv imau puruṣau loke. Dvāv imau puruṣau loke. kṣaraś-cākṣara eva ca. kṣaraś-cākṣara eva ca. kṣara sarvāṇi bhūtāni. kṣara sarvāṇi bhūtāni. kūṭa-sthaḥ kṣara ucyate. kūṭa-sthaḥ kṣara ucyate. dvāv imau puruṣau loke. kṣaraś-cākṣara eva ca. kṣara sarvāṇi bhūtāni. kūṭa-stho kṣara ucyate. dvāv imau puruṣau loke. kṣara-cākṣara eva ca. kṣara sarvāṇi bhūtāni. kūṭa-sthaḥ kṣara ucyate. sarvāṇi bhūtāni ucyate. Aimo puruṣau loke. kṣara-cākṣara eva ca. dvāv puruṣau loke. kṣara-cākṣara eva ca. kṣara sarvāṇi bhūtāni. kūṭa-sthaḥ kṣara ucyate. Mataji. dvāv imau puruṣau loke. kṣara-cākṣara eva ca. kṣara sarvāṇi bhūtāni. dvāv imau puruṣau loke. kṣara-cākṣara eva ca. kṣara sarvāṇi bhūtāni. kūṭa-sthaḥ kṣara ucyate. Word by word meaning. dvau, two. Imau, this. puruṣau, living entities. Loke, in the world. kṣara, fallible. Ca, and. akṣara, infallible. Eva, certainly. Ca, and. kṣara, fallible. sarvāṇi, all. bhūtāni, living entities. kūṭa-sthaḥ, in oneness. akṣaraḥ, infallible. ucyate, is said. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There are two classes of being, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. Please repeat. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. Purport. As already explained, the Lord in his incarnation as Vyāsadeva compiled the Vedānta-sūtra. Here the Lord is giving, in summary, the contents of the Vedānta-sūtra. He says that the living entities who are innumerable can be divided into two classes, the fallible and the infallible. The living entities are eternally separated parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When they are in contact with the material world, they are called jīva-bhūta, and the Sanskrit words given here, kṣara, sarvāṇi, bhūtāni, means that they are fallible. Those who are in oneness with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, are called infallible. Oneness does not mean that they have no individuality, but that there is no disunity. They are all agreeable to the purpose of the creation. Of course, in the spiritual world, there is no such thing as creation. But since the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as stated in the Vedānta-sūtra, is the source of all emanations, that conception is explained. According to the statement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, there are two classes of living entities. The Vedas give evidence of this, so there is no doubt about it. The living entities who are struggling in this world with the mind and five senses have their material bodies which are changing. As long as a living entity is conditioned, his body changes due to contact with matter. Matter is changing, so the living entity appears to be changing. But in the spiritual world, the body is not made of matter. Therefore, there is no change. In the material world, the living entity undergoes 6 changes: birth, growth, duration, reproduction, then dwindling and vanishing. These are the changes of the material body, but in the spiritual world, the body does not change. There is no old age, there is no birth, there is no death. They all exist in oneness. Kṣara, sarvāṇi, bhūtāni. Any living entity who has come in contact with matter, beginning from the first created being Brahma down to a small ant, is changing its body. Therefore, they are all fallible. In the spiritual world, however, they are always liberated in oneness. Om ajnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai shri guruve namaha vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, this is one of the most important chapters in Bhagavad Gita, and we see in Bhagavad Gita generally from the beginning Sanjay speaks, Dhritarashtra speaks, Arjuna speaks, and Krishna speaks. So there are the 4 main speakers in Bhagavad Gita. So who is speaking this verse? Sorry? Krishna is speaking, yes. And in this chapter, there are 20 verses, and all 20 are spoken by Krishna here. So the entire chapter comes from Krishna, and the part we are in right now, from sloka number 16 to 20, which will be followed in the coming days. So they are bifurcated into 3. So in 16, 17 and 18, Krishna is explaining Sambandha Gnan. Then in 19th will be Abhideya, and 20th will be Prayojana. So these 3, Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana, will be explained in the remaining 5 verses which are left in this chapter. So today we will try to understand this particular verse. And the 16, 17, 18 is also called 3 Shloki Gita, kind of. 3 Shloki Gita for knowledge, yes. 16, 17, 18, the part which we are going to read, one of the shloka from. So here, Krishna is defining, or rather informing us, that the existence is divided into two, fallible and infallible. So, fallible means which is temporary, and infallible means which is eternal. So, the spiritual world is infallible and this material world is fallible. Similarly, there are two types of living entities. So, those living in the spiritual state of consciousness, in the transcendental abode of the Lord, they are called infallible. And those who live in this material world with a materialistic mindset are all fallible. Hare Krishna. So, in general, we understand that everything depends on power of Krishna. Krishna is Bhoktaram, Yajña-tapasam, Sarva-loka Maheshwaram, Surida Sarva-bhūtānam, Gnātva Mam Santim Richati. So Krishna is, in a way, the controlling force of this whole creation. And we are all dependent on the power of God at every moment. And there are innumerable living entities, and each and every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Whole. And we are expected to be performing our duties as part of the whole. But we know this shloka from Bhagavad Gita, prakrute kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasah ahankara vimūdatma karta hamiti manyate. So, somehow we are under an impression that we are the doer. But we are acting under the influence of the mode of material nature. And again, the material nature is in the control of Krishna. So, as we are part and parcel of the Supreme Whole, we are supposed to be functioning as part of the whole and not independently. But because Krishna has given us this free will, so this free will is to be exercised to the extent that we can desire whatever we want to desire, and Krishna very kindly disposes. So we hear this, that man proposes and God disposes. So whatever we desire, and then we should try to act according to that desire. So for example, now all of us, we have got connected to this wonderful movement of Srila Prabhupada ISKCON, and our desire is to get love of God. So then, now we have to act accordingly. So, if we desire something and we act differently, then it's not sending a clear understanding about what we are trying to achieve. So, Krishna and from the power of God's personality or through his energy, tries to fulfill those desires. So, Krishna, through his different energies, as we already spoke, is trying to fulfill whatever desires we have. So in a way, we can understand that we are depending on Krishna every single moment. Without Krishna's sanction, nothing can be achieved in our life. Now, we try to understand the word fallible here. So two major things or classification given here is fallible and infallible. So, fallible is external material energy, and it is all temporary, and nothing is permanent in this. And so, when we become attached to these material, temporary things, then we suffer. That is the cause of suffering. Because though this is also energy of Krishna, but this is manifested in a temporary form. And when we get attached to it, and because it is temporary, the moment it is diminishing or dwindling, then we suffer, we feel pain. So we have to be understanding that Krishna is very kindly sanctioning all our desires. But we are being given the free will to choose what we desire. That is the free will. We have that free will that we can decide what we want to desire. So that is not imposed on us. That is not imposed on us. That free will Krishna has given, and if we exercise it correctly, then we can come out of this fallible nature to the infallible nature. So right now what we see in general, that we take shelter of this quality of Krishna which is fallible, or the energy of Krishna which is fallible, material nature, material attachment, material possessions, family, Hare Krishna, family, house, all material possessions, we talk about wealth. So this is all kind of that. So, for example, if you are in need of money and we go to a beggar that, I am in need of money. So what can a beggar help us? What can a beggar help us? So if we are in need of money, we should go to someone who is like king, who is like really wealthy, who can fulfill our requirement of money which we need. So people who take shelter of various forms of this fallible material energy, their lives are fallible. So we have to understand that till the time we seek shelter in this fallible material energy, we will be continuously suffering pain. So the cause of pain is our trying to seek shelter or pleasure or enjoyment or a sense of accomplishment in these fallible things, which are all temporary. So if we are in contact with these fallible things, then we are part of that fallible nature, and we keep suffering. So we keep getting more and more births. With every time we end this life, we get another body, because we are living this body with a materialistic mindset. And on the other hand, infallible. So only infallible thing is Krishna. Krishna is infallible. So Krishna is the maintainer of all living being. So if we take shelter of Krishna, then we can become infallible. So the question is, what happens if we take shelter of Krishna? Because we have that fear that Krishna asks only that you take, please surrender to me. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. So he's requesting us rather, he's instructing us, yes, please take shelter of me. Please surrender everything to me. There is nothing else is to be executed by, just surrender to me. But that surrender and shelter is kind of same thing. And what he ensures when we take shelter of Krishna, he ensures us protection. He says, don't fear, I will take care of you. So this is coming directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whose direction everything is functioning, manifested, unmanifesting, creation, annihilation, maintenance. He is simply performing this task without much of intervention. We can't even feel that he is doing this. So, to understand this is even becoming more difficult in that way. But if we try to practice this principle of taking shelter of Krishna, then he ensures full protection to us. And we also read in Bhagavad Gita, ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tasaya bhajamiyam. So, if we take shelter of the fallible energy, then we get that. And if we want to take shelter of the infallible energy, then Krishna provides reciprocates accordingly. So it's not that Krishna is deciding. Actually, we are deciding what we want from Krishna. Choice is given to us. Krishna's choice is only one. He wants all of us to be in his shelter. That is his choice. But he has given us free will now to choose whether you want to be part of the fallible energy or the infallible. So people think that Krishna is controlling everything. So how can you say that I don't want to chant Hare Krishna? How can you say that I don't want to surrender? But it is very clearly mentioned that Krishna reciprocates. He is just initiating after we signals him what we want from him. He is reciprocating. So if we ask him full surrenderance, he will give us full surrenderance. But somehow we are unable to ask that full surrenderance. We don't have that desire. We don't have that desire to ask for it. And Krishna is waiting for that. The moment we have that desire, he will provide full shelter. Means Krishna never disappoints devotees. Never. We will discuss Vrindavan pastimes today and how in Vrindavan pastimes Krishna was every second giving full shelter. We sing every day, Brajajana Bhayahari, Brajajana Rakhwala. Every day we are singing this. So he gives full protection. If you take shelter of Krishna, he gives full protection. But he is waiting for us to be demanding that shelter, to be desiring that shelter from Krishna. If we demand and desire that, he wants to give it. This is what he is asking from us. That surrender, surrender. But then he doesn't impose. That is his, that is his style. He wants it to be coming from us. Love. He wants a love, unconditional love, where we want to practice this principle of surrenderance to Krishna. So, Krishna reciprocates with how we approach him. So, whether we are divine or demoniac is not by Krishna's arrangement, but it is our choice, as I already discussed this. So, Krishna gives us choice whether to take his shelter or shelter of superfluous object of this world. So, in this whole process, if we analyze, the biggest challenge we have is false ego. We are somehow not able to agree that Krishna can do this, that he can be the supreme protector. He can maintain us. He is the only provider in the whole creation. Somehow we are not able to accept it. Our mind is not accepting it. Our intelligence is not allowing us to accept that. And so we are fearing to surrender. Otherwise, we have heard this, that Krishna is the supreme, at least there is no doubt here, at least in this room, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We all know that, right? We all agree to it. We are chanting sincerely. We are praying to get that love of God. And we are doing so much of our tapasyas and reading, hearing. But still somewhere we have this understanding that, or maybe in a subtle form which we are not able to relate, that Krishna is the maintainer. Krishna is the protector. Krishna is our well-wisher. So that is very important that we try to, this false ego is a deterrent in this, and we cannot move this hand if Krishna doesn't want, right? It is moving now, but if Krishna doesn't allow, it will be like this, and then you cannot move it. Like right now we have a cow who's since 2 months on our farm. She has some health challenges and she cannot move her legs. She was moving fine before, and now, and none of us can do anything about it. We are trying our best, but not moving. So we cannot open our eyes if Krishna doesn't allow. So in a way, we think that we are independent, but we are not independent. Every moment of our life, every minute details of our life are fully under the control of Krishna. So if we can acknowledge that fact, then this idea of being independent, an idea of this lot of false ego in us that I am the doer, I am the achiever, I am the enjoyer, I am the controller, will gradually start diminishing. But this has to be extrapolated in our consciousness. We should more and more be convinced, more and more we should try to practice this and implement this in our routine lifestyles. Then we can gradually come out of this mentality of controllership and enjoying. Otherwise, we will be in a continuous struggling situation, challenging situation, as we know these three, Adi-Daivik, Adi-Bhautik, and Adi-Atmik. So Adi-Daivik is given by the demigods and the higher forces which are not in our control. Then Adi-Atmik is the mind. Even if everything is just perfect, if we accept that Krishna is the controller, Krishna is the maintainer, and nothing moves without Krishna's sanction, then our mind should be convinced that whatever is happening is good for us. Whatever is moving is just perfect for that particular point in time. But despite of that, sitting in the room, we can be super frustrated. We can be super disturbed. We can have sleepless nights. And that is Adi-Atmik. Nobody is responsible, but our mind is processing some information in a way which is making us more and more disturbed. So Adhyatmic and Adibhautik is caused by other living entities. So this we all know. Whenever we succeed in our life, people become envious of us. When you try to move progressively in your life, people are envious of your success. They try to pull you down. Maybe as a student, same story. As a businessman, the competitors will try to bring you down. Politicians. So in all streams of life, these challenges are always there from the other living entities. So this will go on. We cannot stop this unless and until we take shelter of Krishna. And then Krishna says, if you take shelter of me, I will protect you. So what does that mean, I will protect you? He protects us as a soul or as a body? Generally we think like this. Krishna said, I will protect you, but I am getting so much of disease. I am so much... But he is talking about the soul. The whole Bhagavad Gita is on the platform of soul. He is not talking otherwise. If he protects body, it's okay. Doesn't protect, what we have to lose? Anyhow, we have to leave the body someday. So when Krishna talks about protection, he is talking about protecting of us, the spirit soul. Otherwise, people think that yoga kshemam vahamiham. Okay, so Krishna will give me what I don't have and he will protect me what I have. But that is that spiritual consciousness, so that we can be always thinking about Krishna. Not that our bank balance is protected, our houses are protected, our whole family is protected. It is not about that protection Krishna is talking about. How can he talk about that? It is totally contrary to the view of what Krishna presented in 2nd chapter, that we are a spirit soul. So when he says, I protect you, then he is talking to us as a spirit soul. So this is another important point I felt we can discuss. And so health and all other, we want appreciations in our life, but we might not get, even despite of best services we are rendering in our life. It might be possible that externally we feel that people are condemning us, criticizing us, not happy about our services. But internally, if we are taking shelter of the Lord, Krishna is very much appreciative of us as a soul. He gives us that satisfaction, and we can relish that relationship with the Lord when we are sincerely taking shelter of the Lord through the holy name, through the association of devotees, through reading Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So this has to be also more into practice, that whatever Krishna is speaking to the spirit soul, not to any body or anything else. He is speaking to the spirit soul. So Krishna gives us the realization, and that realization comes gradually. Because we are in a process, and now we are discussing these principles, but somebody can execute it immediately. As Prabhupada says, we can become Krishna conscious in a moment, and some might take 6 months, 3 months, 1 year, maybe 10 years, maybe more, whatever, depending on how sincerely we are pursuing or how sincerely we are desiring to surrender to Krishna, to take shelter of Krishna. So accordingly, this realization comes to us, and the best way to take shelter is by chanting, hearing, association and serving Krishna. So we have ample opportunity. By Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we have ample opportunity to read his books, to chant Hare Krishna mantra, to take association of devotees, and to render various services to Krishna. So these are the best way to seek shelter. We don't have to be doing anything else. If we accept this, that Krishna is the supreme protector, Krishna is the maintainer, then like day before yesterday we were reading a class with our devotees on the farm, and there Krishna says that no species work to get food. None of the species is working to get food. There are 84 lakh species, and they don't go for education, they don't take any technical knowledge, they just survive on what Krishna is providing. So if we humans also try to accept the gift of nature, what Krishna is providing, then we also don't have to struggle so hard. But somehow the whole conditioning in this world is that from the day till the night we just work like an ass just to get our food. And on the other hand, all the species are just getting it on their own. So from that example we can understand. And then and this is in a instruction given by Kapil Dev to Mother Devahuti. Prabhupada is explaining this. And then he mentions that the reason for scarcity of food in this world is because we are not God conscious. How can you relate this? The reason for scarcity of food in this world is because there is lack of God consciousness. So if become more and more Krishna conscious, these basic things are given, that faith will come in us, and gradually we see, like there are many pastimes in Bhagavatam also, like Mrigari. He was doing such a bad sinful activity to make his livelihood, and then when Narada instructed him and he focused on chanting, hearing, and then he could get so much of food that he couldn't eat it. He was giving it back. So Krishna provides. That faith has to be increased more and more, and this is the process to do that, is chanting, hearing, association of devotees and serving Krishna. And now we will discuss residents of Vrindavan. So, like resident of Vrindavan, if we discuss, like they were very simple people, they were not very educated, not very wealthy, and if you observe, their activity was like taking care of cows, moving the cows in the forest, or doing some agriculture, taking care of house, gopis, they were taking care of the family members. So nobody would be so much of appreciative of this. But Krishna was. Krishna was very appreciative of them. If we see their lifestyle, they were living a very lifestyle which is not very appreciative to our current mindset. We cannot live that. When we are asked to live, we think, not possible. How can we do without taking education, going to school and college? How can we do about not doing jobs and businesses? How can we do without that? But they were doing, these Brajvasis were doing, and they were very dear to Krishna. So nobody would gather to see these people, but Krishna was very interested in them. Krishna was very inspired with them. So the whole process of Brajvasis living was every moment doing activity to please Krishna. Every moment their focus was just whether this will please Krishna or not. They were totally meditating on Krishna all the time, whatever they were doing. So it's not about how big activities we do that attract Krishna. It's what is our state of consciousness which gets us more and more connected to Krishna. So we don't have to be externally appearing to be very big in our activities. But internally, if we are focusing on Krishna's lotus feet, that will be our real success. That will take us more and more on the path of surrendering to Krishna or taking shelter of the Lord. So Brajvasis are a great example for this. And on the other hand, if we see Kamsa was a king. He conquered everyone. He was like very powerful. Maybe he has power of 10,000 elephants, like very powerful. He could control all the demigods, all the kings on the planet. He was a very powerful king, but somehow he was very fearful. He was always in anxiety. Not a moment of his life was without anxiety. Not a moment. And what did he heard? He heard that from that omen that 8th child of Devaki will be the cause of death. So what is new in this? We are all going to die, we know that. Even Kamsa knew this, that death is unavoidable. We all know that. So what was so disturbing about it? But because if we are not taking shelter of Krishna, then we will be always in this state of anxiety, whatever we do, because we are taking shelter of his material energy. This is what it means. So he was attached to his controllership of the kingdom, he was attached to his big richness he had, all the possessions he had, all the servants he had, all the military he had. So he had this plan that the moment he heard this, he wanted to kill Devaki. Somehow we know this story. Vyāsadeva saved her. But the point to understand here is that if we are not taking shelter of Krishna, we have continuous anxiety in our life. So the cause of anxiety is not that Krishna has given us less opportunity to perform devotional service, but the cause of anxiety is that we are not ready to accept the wonderful arrangement Krishna has given, and rather we are kind of rebellious to the situation where Krishna has put us in. And we saw, like Kamsa. Kamsa was also living in Mathura. Kamsa was a Mathuravasi. He was not living in an ordinary land. He has one of the best opulence to live in Mathura, no problem. Best place to practice devotional service. But still he was not taking shelter. So he was in anxiety all the time. So then we have another example of Aghasura. How Brajbasis took shelter of Krishna. So these boys who used to be with Krishna, they had full faith that Krishna will save us, and he has always saved us. Boys were very clear. The coward boys who were going, they never had any problem. Okay, yes, Krishna is with us. Krishna is with us. All the time they knew that Krishna is with us. So when they saw the big mouth of Aghasura, like our land here, ISKCON Vrindavan has a land where we do farming and we have a Gurukul. That is Aghasur land. It is said that the Aghasur pastime was performed there. So we have a big diagram of Aghasur there, and like opening his mouth and the coward boys entering into his face. So they knew that he is a demon. These boys knew it, but somehow they thought it's a cave, it's a nice place to play, let us enter in. If something will happen, Krishna is there, what is there to fear? So when we have this faith, Krishna never disappoints us. He knows that, he's depending on me. So Krishna cannot relax then. He is very, very alert. No, this devotee is very, very surrendered. So all the time he meditates on that devotee then. So these boys were like that. And to us, we can think that, yes, it is very difficult to do that, it is very rare. But if we try to practice, it is not difficult. It's our wishful decision to take that, no, I will choose to do this now. But then, because of our conditionings of many, many lifetimes, we think that, no, I think first I should have a bank balance of 1 crore rupees at least. 1 crore is enough these days or no? Enough? It's difficult to answer, you see. Because for some, 100,000 is enough, for some 100 crore is less. So from this itself we can understand that no material arrangement can ensure anxiety-free life. And a Kamsa is a king, but super anxiety, sleepless nights, cannot sleep. So no material arrangement ensures us anything. So now we know this from the Shastra, from the Guru, we have understood this. So now it's a time to make a desire that, okay, I accept this, now I want to live like this. Who is stopping us from doing that? Nobody. So we have to take that decision to join like that. Otherwise, this omen, what Kamsa heard, it's every day we are hearing on this planet now. Any moment, anything can happen. No guarantee of anything. Tsunami, or the corona, and whatnot. Every day is some war between. Something is happening which is crazy, but this is going to happen. The way we are managing this wonderful planet given to us, what else can we expect? We are just ruining it day by day. So we see the boys, they were very surrendered. And then this Narada, we know Narada Muni, so he wanted to expedite. Because Kamsa somehow was waiting for that 8th child. We read this in Krishna book, Prabhupada writes. And he didn't even took Devaki and Vasudeva in the jail, but then Narada came to him and instigates him kind of. So, and in general, Narada Muni cannot be seen by anyone. Narada reveals himself. Not if for example Narada comes, we cannot see him, but if Narada Muni reveals, we can see. So Kamsa was a good demon in a way, that Narada was revealing himself to him. So once Srila Prabhupada was giving class, the devotees arranged a class for Srila Prabhupada, and they made very nice arrangement, big hall and so many chairs, and they are making big propaganda because they wanted that more and more people get Srila Prabhupada's association so that they can become devotee of Krishna. That was their desire. And they were really, really hard, and hundreds of chairs, and they wanted that they all will be filled, and they did a wonderful job. And when Prabhupada entered the hall, what Prabhupada saw, the hundreds of chairs were empty. Hardly anyone came there. So devotees were like really disappointed, their hearts were broken, and they felt a big offense to Srila Prabhupada. They were like, oh, now what will happen? But When Srila Prabhupada sat, he did his wonderful kirtan, then he gave very enthusiastic, powerful class, and now devotees are feeling a little better when they saw this mood of Prabhupada. And then after the class, the disciples went to Prabhupada and said that, Prabhupada, we are very sorry, only 6-7 people came. Devotees were more than the outsiders. So they expressed their sorry to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, no, you couldn't see, there were so many demigods, Narada was there. So, and then Prabhupada instructs them that we are not to please anybody here. We are here just to please Krishna. Our goal of life is to please Krishna. If we are not here to make followers, we are not here to make any of us artificial, making big numbers, big food distribution, 25,000 people eating prasadam every day, 5,000 taking full meal prasadam every day, this many devotees did chanting, 22,000 people chanted Hare Krishna Mahamantra, good. But is our internal mood to please Krishna? That is our real test. In all this exercise, what we are doing, all the service we are rendering, is this for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna? That brings in the mood of surrenderance. If we think that if he will do, only 1 people will chant. If I am doing, 10 people will chant. Then there is a surrender in this. This is kartaham iti manyate. So Krishna is not into this calculating analytical game. Krishna just sees one part, whether he is following my instruction or not, whether he is listening to what I am saying or not. This is what Krishna is interested in, not anything else. So there is one more pastime about Yomasura. He was like, he takes the role of a coward boy, right? They were playing a game, and he was hiding one boy and in the caves, and he will lock them up there. Take them, lock them. But again, as we heard, these boys were very peaceful. They said, no, Krishna will protect us, no problem. One by one, he took all of them. And now Krishna says, oh, everybody is gone now. So then Krishna takes care of him and kills him. And he very easily goes and opens the cave, and all the boys were again happy. So we can relate this with our life, that Yomasura is like our attachment to this fallible material world, the material energy. We are also kind of attached to it. We don't want to leave it. We want to stay connected to it. And we are trying to play this game with this material energy. No? We have understood that it is going to give us nothing. This bank balance, big house, family, husband, wife, children, nothing we are going to get. But still we think that let me play a game. What is the problem? Let us play a game. So we are paying a price. We are delaying the whole process. In that decision, we are delaying our process of surrendering to Krishna. We are delaying. So, but it's our visual choice. If we want to play, we can play. Krishna has no problem with that. And then what happens when we start to play with the material? We are kind of like these boys were encaged. We are encaged. And who is encaging us? Our desire to enjoy the material world. And from that, it's not easy to come out. But we choose to be in that. It's very difficult. And so, the importance of association of devotees is so very important. They can help us to come out of this. So the process of hearing and chanting is so very important. They can help us to come out of this engagement of material desire. So the process, the Prabhupada gave us devotional service, rendering more and more service to the Lord, to the devotees. That can help us to come out of this engagement of material desire. So if we sincerely follow this process, then it is very easy to come out. Whatever Krishna says, Mama Maya Durate, but then he also says that if you surrender unto me, I will free you. He's saying both the things. But why we remember only one part then? That is difficult. We should remember the other part also. If we surrender, Krishna is ready to accept us. So this association is very, very important, because this association inspires us to do. It is like, I heard yesterday from one devotee, he says that association is like the soil. The soil in the farming is the association. And hearing and chanting is watering. Right? It's like this. Hearing and chanting is watering, and association of devotees is soil. So these both things are important. So with hearing and chanting, we should also have very good association of devotees, which can help us to do away with all these anarthas of kam, krodh, lobh, moh, bad, matsar. Otherwise it's difficult to do away all these anarthas. So, but Krishna is very kind. The moment we accept Krishna is our only shelter giver, Krishna is our only master, Krishna is our proprietor, Krishna is our best friend. Krishna is ready to deliver us. And specifically in this age, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has mercifully given us the holy name to take shelter. So it's the easiest way to take shelter, chanting the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So if we seek shelter of Krishna through this holy name, because Krishna and his name is non-different. There is no difference between Krishna and Krishna's name. So then we can find real happiness in our life. So I think this is what we can understand. Maybe Vishwarup Prabhu can comment something more. Anybody else want to comment? So whatever I am speaking, I learned from Vishwarup Prabhu. He trained me from beginning of my spiritual life. I learned a lot from him. I am grateful to him. And he is very kindly sitting to hear me. Maybe he is checking me how I am speaking maybe. Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Granthraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki